Uh,
Hi, we're in Jacob's bunker.
eh,
Okay. When you coming up for air, Jacob?
what?
When was the last time you saw daylight?
I haven't seen daylight for about 69 days, 2 hours, and 3 minutes,
Okay.
45 seconds.
Not that anyone's counting or anything.
No, God forbid.
Okay, we are in chapter 38 in the book of Bereshit, Genesis, chapter 38, verse 11, line by line through the
Chapters.
Torah. And we're out to the bits where Judah, tells his daughter-in-law, Tamar, to wait things out. Just to recap, Judah has three sons, and Onan, and they were not good boys, and they died. And so when the first one died, he goes to the second one and says, marry your brother's wife. And there's a mitzvah in the Torah to, if your brother dies without children, that you should marry that girl and raise the first child in the name of your brother, so that his memory does not disappear. So Tamar married his brother, and he also died. Now he had a third son, Shelah, and Yehuda was nervous about giving Tamar to this third son, Shelah, because he didn't know the reason his two sons died. We know because we're reading it in the Torah, but he didn't know. So he was nervous that maybe it's Tamar that's bumping them off. Now, he didn't think, God forbid, that it was Tamar. He knew her well enough to know that it wasn't Tamar was poisoning the water, was giving them what do they call it, window freeze.
Yeah.
What's it called? I forget what it's.
Uh, it's like instant freeze.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, oh,
Whatever it's called, right? The stuff you put in the window washer to make sure on the car so it doesn't freeze up, right? It's poisonous.
yeah.
So
Antifreeze.
antifreeze. Thank you very much. English isn't
Yeah.
my first language. Thank you, Jake.
Uh,
So he wasn't thinking that that was what was going on, but he did wonder that if there's something spiritual going on, that she has some sort of dis there's a break in the time space continuum, and somehow she was having a deleterious effect on deleterious, getting used to my first language, effect on the two boys. And there's a concept like this by circumcision. If you have two boys, God forbid, God forbid, God forbid, I mean, not God forbid, you have two boys, but you have two boys, and you give the first one a bris, and the kid dies. Yeah. And then you have a second one, right? You don't give the third one a bris, right? There's a halacha like this. It's a very interesting halacha, because what does the third one do eventually? It's a whole big question. I'm not a post-sec, so if you have this issue, speak to your local Orthodox rabbi. But nevertheless, there is this idea called a chazaka, that if something happens three times in a row, that we consider it, and in obviously in these cases we go a little bit more than the three, but three is the general rule. If something happens three times in a row, you have to look suspiciously at it. You have to be very, very careful. So here, he didn't know what was going on, but he didn't want to take a chance on the third boy. So he he tells her, live as a widow in your father's house until my son Shelah was grown. In other words, he had a legitimate excuse, because Shelah was a little boy at this point, and she's an adult. So he was putting her off, right? But he gave her a good answer. It was a legitimate excuse. He was putting her off because he was concerned that Shelah too would die like his brothers. Tamar left, and lived in her father's house. Right? You want to read, Jacob? Verse 12.
Yeah, verse
Yeah, now
12.
it's going to get very interesting.
A long time passed, and Judah's wife, the daughter of Shua, died. Judah sought consolation, and he went to supervise his sheep shears in Timnah, together with his friend Hirah the Adullamite.
Yeah.
Hirah the Adullamite. Tamar was told that her widow's
Her
gar
father-in-law.
her father-in-law was going to Timnah to shear his sheep. She took off her widow's garb and covered herself with a veil. Thus disguised, she sat at the entrance of twin wells, Enaim, on the road to Timnah. She had seen that Shelah had grown, and she had not been given to him as a wife.
Right. So
Judas,
she realizes like this isn't happening.
yeah.
Right. But she wants to marry into, she wants to be part of Abraham's family. So she's pondering what are her options here. Keep
Okay.
going.
Judas saw her, and because she had covered her face, he assumed that she was a prostitute. Oh no. He turned aside to her on the road, not realizing that she was his own daughter-in-law. "Hello there," he said. Let me come to you." Wait a second. That's not right.
Yeah, why?
There's something wrong afoot.
Yeah.
If
No kidding.
yeah, if he thinks she's a prostitute, why does he want to commit such a terrible sin? He's Judah. This doesn't make sense.
So you see, right? You're under the delusion of the Western world.
Oh, okay.
Nothing personal. Some of my best friends are fit under this category.
Oh,
So
dear.
you see, you live in the Western world long enough, you start to think that heroes don't do anything wrong.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Right? That's the Western world for you. Right? You never saw, when I was growing up, I used to watch John Wayne movies and Star Trek and all that stuff, right? You never saw Brad Pitt misdial a number. Like the Marvel movies, Superman never misspeaks, right?
Yeah.
I've been involved, I've done a few movies myself, not on that scale by any means, right? But to get a scene right takes forever. Some of these scenes, they takes weeks.
Oh.
Because just to say it the way you need to say it, all these kinds of different things, right? Life isn't like that. But when you watch these movies, you think the heroes don't make any mistakes. And the Torah's contribution to humanity is enormous, not least for which, at this point, the great people make mistakes. There's an old Eddie Cantor line. Eddie Cantor was a famous movie star in the 30s and 40s, 1930s and 40s. And he said it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. It's very interesting. They say a very interesting thing that Steve Jobs, one of his claims to fame is that he was America's biggest failures.
That's true.
So you see, right, that people think that Thomas Edison, Carnegie, Rockefeller, all these guys, they just, Einstein, Darwin, whoever you want to say, right? They just had an idea, they went out and published it, and they became like overnight successes. It's absolutely not true. There's no such thing. And the difference with Steve Jobs is, you see, most people succeed, Elon Musk, people like that, when they succeed, they're able to erase the bad history. As Winston Churchill said, history is written by the victors. So people write their history, their biography, and they take out all the naughty bits, all the nasty bits. So Steve Jobs couldn't do that because his failures were so public. He became a great success after many, many failures. And that's what the Torah is pointing out. Everyone's got their junk. Everyone's got their junk. That's how did he do such a thing? Because he's a human being like everybody else. If you to think that you have to have a perfect score record to get anywhere in life is holding everyone back. Because people think I can't do something like that, or whatever it happens to be. Because you think that, like, I've got junk. Having junk is not does not preclude anyone from achieving great things. It's a tragedy, really, because it really affects the presidency. Because we've created this reality called a politician.
Oh no!
A politician is just a career perfectionist. They massage their image from a very young age. It's not people anymore that were in business and have a history and they've done things and failed at things. So we tend to think that, like, politicians, to run a country, you got to have this perfect image. I'm not sort of saying we should support Donald Trump or not support, but one of the great things about him is he's got a history, and it's a colored history. It's not a great history. Some of it's nice, some of it's bad, and people are having a hard time with that because they want politicians that have perfection.
It's true, very true, Rabbi. Wow.
Okay, so here you see, right? The Torah is pointing out the junk, right? And that gives it a tremendous amount of credibility because you won't find that kind of history when in other books. You read the stories of other people who are supposed to be heroes. They don't write such things.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
Okay, so anyway, so she pretends to be a prostitute, right?
Okay.
And he comes to her, right? And she says, "What will you give me?" Right? Right. Yeah. So he says, verse 7, I will send you a kid from the flock. But you must give me something for security until you send it. How do I know you're going to send it? Well, what do you want for security? Your seal, your wrap, and the staff in your hand. She replied. He gave them to her and came to her, making her pregnant. She got up and left, taking off her veil and putting her widow's garb back on. Judah sent the young kid with his friend the Adullamite in order to get the security back from the woman, but his friend could not find him. The friend asked the local people, where is that religious prostitute? She was near Twin Wells, Enaim, alongside the road. Now, here's a very interesting thing. You look in the Hebrew on that verse where it says a religious prostitute. I don't like the translation there. Right? Look at the Hebrew. Read the Hebrew for me.
Religious.
Verse 21.
Verse 21. Vayishal es anshe Mikoma Lamar.
He asked the people of the place, saying,
yeah, Aye,
where?
Hakadesha.
Right. Right. Where's the Kadesha? Now, what does Kadesha mean?
Holy person.
Holy. But he translates it as prostitutes.
But that's not what it says.
What do you mean that's not what it says?
It says, no, that's not what the Torah says. The Torah says, holy.
Right. So what are you talking about? How does it translate that as a prostitute?
Yeah. I don't know. Very odd.
Very odd.
Maybe we should write a note to the publisher.
So you see, I have a friend, Rabbi Braverman, and he says like this: the Western world didn't elevate sex; it just made it more available.
That's very true.
Right? It's just as smutty as it was in the 1950s. Right? It's just everywhere. Right? Okay. in Torah, in Judaism, sex is holy. Now, when you have a Hebrew word, see, Hebrew is a designed language. All languages are really, the Talmud is an agreement amongst people. We agreed to call this a table and this a chair, but you could just as easily call this a chair, and this a table, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no meaning to it, but Hebrew's not like that. Hebrew is a designed language. There's very few words. And that's why it's the easiest language in the world to learn, because you've got very few words. But the words can be conjugated to mean different things because there's only a very limited number of concepts in existence. And the words reflect those concepts. The concepts commutate into different things, but they're nevertheless a reflection of the same word or the same concept, just in a different form. So, for instance, in Hebrew, you can have the word shalem, which means to pay a bill, but it also means to have peace, shalom. So it's coming to tell you what's peace. If something is missing, there's not peace. Peace is to be complete. Right? If you haven't paid the bill, you haven't. It's not all complete.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Well,
I hear
so you see, a kadesha is a prostitute because she's taking something that's kadosh, holy. What do we call marriage in Hebrew, in Judaism? Kedushin.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The same word.
Uh-huh.
So you see, Kedushin means that you dedicate yourselves for each other. That's what Kadosh means, to be dedicated or committed to each other. The word for marriage in Hebrew is Kadosh. We don't have really, well, there's Hasana. We don't really have a word for marriage except for that. Kedushin. Kedushin means you're committed to each other. Kadesha, a prostitute, is the exact opposite. You're committed to nobody.
Oh, that's very deep.
That's why I specialize in deep. Okay. So now, so he's asking where this Kadesha is, right, follow? And they can't find her because she's not there. Right, you follow? Verse 22. You want to keep reading?
Of course. He returned to Judah and said,
plot thickens.
Oh, yeah. He returned to Judah and said, I cannot find the woman. I cannot find the woman. The local men said that there was no sacred prostitute there. Let her keep the security, replied Judah. We don't want to become a laughing stock. I tried to send her the kid, but you couldn't find her. Some 3 months passed, and Judah was told, your daughter-in-law has been behaving loosely. She has become pregnant from her looseness. Take her out and have her burned, said Judah.
Yeah, and bring the marshmallows.
Yeah. So what does that mean that she became loose?
She was being a prostitute.
Oh, okay. When she was being taken out, she sent the security to her father-in-law with the message, I am pregnant by the man who is the owner of these articles. When Judah came to her, when she said, if you would identify these objects, who is the owner of this seal, this wrap, and this staff? Judah
Okay. So what do you mean? They're gonna take her out to kill her, right?
Yeah.
Because it's what she did was wrong.
Burn her at the stake.
Right? So she sends the kid, she sends the wrap with the signets and the staff, right, to her father-in-law.
Yep.
Right, and she says, recognize, right? If you can recognize, then you'll know who the father is. Why didn't she just come out with it? Oh, you guys are so high and mighty, right? You're never gonna guess who the father is.
Yeah.
Right? So the Talmud learns from this that she was a great woman. She's not some fly by night floozy. She's a great woman. And she wasn't going to speak lashon hara.
But she committed prostitution. That's a
Well, that
real big no.
no, she didn't quite commit prostitution. It was, I mean, it's not kosher, but it wasn't prostitution, right? It's not appropriate, right? But it's questionable what she did was proper or not. But nevertheless, she's not going. He wants to kill her. A little bit hypocritical, don't you think?
A little bit.
Just a little bit, right?
Just a little.
Just a little bit. So she sends this to him, right? So why didn't she just come out and say it? Because she was a great woman. She wasn't going to embarrass him in public. Right? The Talmud says it's better to die at the stake than to embarrass somebody in public. She wasn't going to do it.
Wow.
If he wasn't going to admit, she was going to die. Now, that's coming to tell you her greatness.
Yeah.
Right? She's no small fry.
Wow.
And it was, we could get very upset about the hypocrisy going on here. But nevertheless, somebody else's hypocrisy doesn't give you right. Two wrongs don't make a right. It doesn't give you a right to do something you shouldn't be doing. So she was willing to die. So Yehud, look what happens next. This is like mind-boggling stuff now.
Okay. When Judah immediately recognized them. She's more innocent than I am, he said. She did it because
Again, I don't like this translation, right?
uh,
Let's go from the Hebrew again. V'yikar Yehuda v'yomer. Yehuda recognized and he said, not she's more innocent. See it? Verse 26.
right, Kai Yehuda Vayomer. Tzedakah
Remain
mimeni.
it. She's more righteous than me. She's a better person than I am.
Oh.
Now,
Oh.
I just want you to picture the scene.
Oh dear.
Right? He's the Rosh Basin. He's got a basin. He's sitting in court. They're having a trial. Everybody's there, the whole town. Everybody's seeing this.
Yes.
Right? He finds her guilty. Take her out and have her burned. She doesn't say anything. So they're taking her out. He says, "This is the father." He stands up. Can you imagine this scene? On television, CNN Live. He stands up in front of everyone. I'm the guy.
Or JNN.
What's that?
JNN.
Can you imagine the scene?
How
embarrassing.
Oh my gosh. That
Okay.
that would be nuts. That
would be very intense.
Nuts so.
Right?
Absolute nuts.
You can't write this stuff. You can't write this stuff.
Yeah, it's true.
Right? There's no way an actor could play the greatness that is to be found in Tamar and the greatness that's going to be found in Yehuda.
It's true.
Which we'll talk about in a second, but let's just keep going and then we'll come back.
Okay. She did it because I did not give her my son Shelah. He was not he was not intimate with her anymore. When the time came for her to give birth, there were twins in her womb. As she was in labor, one of them put out an arm. The midwife grasped it and tied a crimson thread on it. "This one came out first," she announced. He pulled his hand back, and then his brother came out. "You have asserted yourself with such pushiness, Peretz," she said. Judah named the child Peretz. His brother which the crimson thread on his hand was then born. Judah named him Zerach.
Okay, now whose Peretz is a famous grandfather? Who descends from him?
Um,
Famous descendants. Who?
uh,
Trivial pursuit here.
how much money is on the line?
Oh, this is a huge. This is the national debt. You
Oh
pay off the
no.
national debt with this one.
Oh, I don't know if I really want to do that or not, but uh uh oh boy. Um
Don't answer all at once.
okay, I'll make sure not to.
Do you want a clue?
Yes.
You big and singing.
Big and singing. David Amalek.
David Amelech. Boom, 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 boom,
Hey,
boom,
I
boom.
paid off all the national debt.
That's it. Well done. Right?
Yeah.
David Amelech. David Amelech comes out of this union. Now, why? In other words, put it like this: if Yehuda hadn't slept with Tamar and hadn't accused her of what he did, and hadn't sent her to die, and she hadn't put out the staff and the signet and the cloak, and he
Yeah.
hadn't stood up, we don't get King David, and we don't get the Messiah. For the King David to come into this world, we need this. How do you understand it? The Yehuda, the King David. You see, we all understand physical genetics.
Yes.
That you have two blue-eyed parents. I don't know how it all works, but essentially you get two. But you're gonna have blue-eyed child. You have two redheads, a redhead. You're gonna have etc. We all understand genetics. 1 in 4, some recessive genes, blah 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 blah. Where there's spiritual genetics, right? There's characteristics that you have that are passed on from your father, your grandfather, etc., your grandmother, right, etc., etc., etc. There's a characteristic that has to come into the world through, and it's only going to happen through this process, through this experience. And therefore, this incident has to happen. The Almighty sets it up, and therefore the King David and the Messiah can come. What is so essential? You understand the question? So what's the answer?
Oh no. We're in Final Jeopardy.
Double or nothing.
Double. Oh, I got the daily double real bad.
That's it.
Oh no. Uh oh boy. This experience of the prostitution.
Yes.
Yay, I won the daily double.
No. What is the meat of the characteristic that has to be that makes this also important?
Bravery.
Oh, you're getting warm. What's real bravery?
Oh, that Tamar didn't that Tamar did not say Lashon Hara when she was being
that is
taken out to
bravery, but
kill.
it's Yehuda.
Oh,
Yehuda's the hero of the story.
How is Yehuda the hero?
Because in that scenario where he could have just stayed quiet and no one would know a word, Tamar would have died, and everyone would think he was righteous, she was wicked, and no one would know the better. In that scenario, he stands up for the truth.
Wow.
And the ability to be able to do that, despite the consequences, is Messiah quality. You understand? That's the kind of person who is going to be the Messiah, who's willing to say the truth no matter what it costs.
Wow.
That is rare in the world. That's Yehuda. Right, in that scenario, just picture yourself in that scenario. You can blame Yehuda and all that kind of stuff, 100%. Right, you follow? But now
Yes.
in the middle of that, to say, I'm the one, right? That takes immense strength. There's a type of righteousness that builds on greatness. And you do the right thing, you stay clean, you stay honest and true, and that's great. And there's a value, a meaning to that. But there's a kind of righteousness that comes out of doing the wrong thing. And out of that, recognizing you're wrong and standing up for the truth and the emes and the right. And that is rare and meaningful and true. And it's greatness. And Yehuda has that quality. And it's coming down to King David, and it's going to be the Messiah. Please God soon. Maybe you.
I mean, no, not me. I'm not the Messiah.
You never know.
Wouldn't I know if I was the Messiah?
No.
Maybe you're the Messiah.
I don't know.
I
Please.
think you are, Rabbi.
We'll see. We'll see.
All
Thanks,
right.
Jacob. See you next week.
All right. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.